I know you are there. I know you are all witnesses of this. I believed in my whole life in the shadows with her, and I never expected this day to come. My name is Toby, and I've been living my whole life as a slave, ever since I was born. I remember my days at Grierson's, when every step I took left a big amount of dust in the air. Now, I'm walking through the dead people. Here, we have Mr. Grierson. He is the father of my lady. He left my lady alone in this world. Also, we have Mr. Homer Barron. He was my lady's lover. And there's a big secret about this, but I'm not the right person to tell you about it. Then, we have Colonel Sartoris. He allowed my lady to live in this world without having to pay as much as the rest. And finally, we have my lady, Emily Grierson. She went through so many awful things during her life that I do pity her. Me, and a slave, I pitied her. So, here's a rose for Emily. You may wonder what her story is about, but I need some people to help me out with this.
When Miss Emily Grierson died, most of the town went to her funeral. You wonder why? Most of the women were just curious to see her, but not to see her body, to see her house. Her house was once white, and it was in the most select street of the town. But after the Civil War, everything changed, and garage replaced most of the most prominent names of the neighborhood. Oh, Miss Emily was a tradition. She was a tradition in the town. In 1894, Colonel Sartoris, who is here, she remitted her taxes from the day she died, her father died, until the day of her own death. Poor Miss Emily, she never had to pay taxes again. But next generations were curious about it. They wondered why Miss Emily did not pay taxes, so they sent tax notices to her, but she never replied. She was the only woman living in that select street, and she did not pay taxes. That was weird, right? So they sent these taxes notice, and then the mayor of the town asked her to come to his office, but again she refuses. Miss Emily, she was special. Then they went to her house. There, Toby, the slave, received them. In the reception room was Miss Emily. She shared them, but she never offered them a seat. And when they explained the situation, she just answered that they should talk to Colonel Sartoris, because she had no taxes in Jefferson. The problem was that Colonel Sartoris was dead for almost 10 years.
Now 2 years passed, since my loving father left my side. And soon after my sweetheart deserted me as well. I barely went out. Some people called, and ladies went to my house, but they were never received. My servant was the only living creature in my house. Soon they began talking about this particular smell that became a distinguished characteristic of my house. They even blamed Toby of having poor kitchen care skills. When complaints increased, Judge Stephen, the mayor of Jefferson at the time, got involved. Thank goodness he was man enough to stand by me and tell those town folks to mind their own business. Will you accuse a lady of smelling bad to her face? He said. Next night, however, 4 men crossed my property like burglars. And once they broke open the cellar doors, they sprinkled lime there to make the odor go away, which disappeared in a week or 2. People began to pity me as they remembered my great aunt and how she went completely crazy. They thought I was next. So after my father died, all the town ladies went to offer condolences, but I refused to accept them. My father was not dead. He wasn't. 3 days passed, and after the law and the forces were almost at service there, I broke down, and I gave them my father's body, and they buried him like he deserved.
Miss Emily, my lady, she was sick for a very long time. She cut her own hair short, and she looked at the same time tragic and serene. This town signed a contract for paving the streets, especially the sidewalks. And along with this, Mr. Homer Barron arrived to the town. He was a Yankee. He was a big black man. Every time that you walk through the streets, you could, if you hear some people laughing, you could imagine immediately that it was him in the middle of the group making everyone else laugh. The time went by, and Miss Emily and Mr. Homer Barron were seen on the streets walking together. And on Sunday mornings, they were driving a yellow buggy. She was very proud of this. She always walked with her head high enough. But I do remember the day when Miss Emily went to the drugstore and asked the druggist, "I want poison," she said. And the druggist said, "What kind of poison do you want? I have for rats and such, but I can recommend." "I want poison," she said. "Give me something, the strongest one you have." And he said, he then started to name some of them. And he said that we have arsenic. Arsenic could kill an elephant in the blink of an eye. "Well, give me arsenic," she said. "But you need to tell me, lady, why do you need arsenic? Law asks us to ask you to tell us what you want, why do you want arsenic? What do you want it for? But he stared directly into his eyes, and he decided to pick up some poison and wrapped it in paper and delivered to her.
The townspeople suspected that Miss Emily wanted to kill herself and agreed it was for the best. It was told that Homer Barron once said, "I am not a married man." It was after that that Miss Emily bought the arsenic, and ladies in the town started to say that the relationship between Homer and Miss Emily was a disgrace for them, and also a bad example for young people. That's the reason why the minister's wife decided to write a letter to Miss Family's cousins in Alabama. Consequently, her two female cousins came to the town. Nothing changed at first. But soon the townspeople started to believe that Homer and Miss Emily were to be married. And of course, they were very glad. They were happy. One day, Homer Barron disappeared from Jefferson. And people started to say that that he had just gone off to prepare for Miss Emily coming to join him. After a week, Homer Barron came back to the town, but it was the last time people saw him. Years passed, and Miss Emily had grown fat, and her hair had just turned an iron gray. From that time on, her door was always closed. I think 6 or maybe 7 years passed. 7 years later, she gave lessons in China painting to my daughters and also to my granddaughters.
After my death, and they held a funeral filled with flowers and faces. It wasn't until I was resting on the ground that those nosy townspeople broke into my house and forced the room upstairs, room that hasn't been opened in 40 years. What they found was frozen in time, and it was frozen for all that period. The room turned into a bridal lounge, where a faded rose color impregnated the place. Upon the furniture, a collar, a tie, a suit, carefully folded. And in the bed, there he was, the body of my Homer Barron. People stood there, paralyzed by the scenario they found, and soon they noticed that right next to my man's pillow was an indentation of a head. On it, a large strand of my iron gray hair.
My name is Homer Barron. He was explaining what happened. But I have to tell you that at the very beginning, people liked me in the town. Because I have to say that I was a charming man. People laughed with me, but then they didn't like me anymore. Because they discovered that my relationship with this lovely lady was almost a sin. Because I was poor, I was an order man, I was a laborer. So they decided that different a relationship from, she was the tradition of the town, and I was the laborer. So we were from different social classes, and that was not good. I once said that I was not a married man, and that was what I thought. That was my opinion about me. But apparently, that was not what Emily wanted. I have to say that I represented the change that the town needed because I used machineries to pave the sidewalks of the town. I represented industrialization, what the town in the south needed. But they didn't like that. And Emily liked me. And apparently she wanted to keep me by her side forever because I died by poisoning, which is really curious. And she kept me in her bed, or not in her bed, or in a bed, in a room in her house for a long period.
As you know me, I'm the Colonel Sartois. I was a Confederate colonel during the Civil War, and also I am the former mayor of Jefferson. I wanted everything in my town functioning in a good way. So I established that no Negro woman should appear on the street without an apron. I remember an issue related to my town. The death of Miss Emily's father was an odd situation because he died in an unexpected way, and the poor Miss Emily suffered a lot. So as a way to help her, I decided to excuse her from having to pay her taxes. So for that, I lied. And I said that her father had given a lot of money to the town, and our inheritance, as a way of our inheritance are then repaying them by canceling all of her taxes. I think it was the best thing I could have done in my life. Don't you think?
Well, as I said before, I am Toby. I'm the slave of the Grierson family. Miss Grierson had a strange love for me. She even allowed me to wear the regular clothes. I was the only link between her and the society when she was locked in her house. It was common at the time, maybe not as common as before, having a slave in each house, but I was serving my ladies faithfully. So that's why I'm here at the cemetery again, visiting her.
I can define myself as an outsider, so desperate to remain hidden from everyone. I was called for being unbalanced, excessively tragic, and a subject of the most bizarre behavior. However, people see me and they look at me as a monument. I was admired, yet I was a model that they pitied and considered irritating. What I did, I don't regret it. People thought that due to my disabilities, I was eventually going to kill myself. And by the end, my unbalanced behavior had to do with necrophilia. Or that was believed. But no, what I am is controlling. I like to know what is mine and when to have it with me. Omar was going to leave me, and that I couldn't allow. My father, may he rest in peace. He raised me under the most strict circumstances and deliberately destroyed all my attempts to find a husband. His lasting influence on me was noticeable to all townspeople. I am who I am because he made me who I am. And I don't apologize for having loved so much.
You may wonder what happened during that period. So, in 1861, the United States faced a great, one of the greatest crises at that time. The north part of the United States and also the south had become less and less alike in terms of politics, economics, and also social. The north part had remained, had become increasingly commercial and also industrial, while the south had largely remained largely agricultural. But the most important thing here was slavery. The north part of the country wanted to abolish slavery, and that was one of the main issues related to the Civil War. Most of the war was fought in the south, so it was physically and also economically devastated. So after 4 years of war, 4 million African Americans were freed. A Voice for Emily covers approximately 3/4 of a century. The birth of Miss Emily was during the Civil War, and her death took place in the late 1920s or early 1930s. So I can say that she lived in the period of the Reconstruction, and it was very painful for people, mostly for people from the South, because they wanted to preserve their ways of living. And also it is important to say that African Americans gained more power, and also they had the right to vote.
Well, I've been told that my latest story is considered to be modernism. Mainly because of the way it is written, because it is eccentric, because it is original, because sorry, Faulkner at that time started to write in a way that only modernists do. Something that is called a stream of consciousness. Also, this story is considered to be Southern Gothic. But this story, as it deals with matters such as murder, poison, and death, it is considered to be Gothic. But what makes it more interesting is that it's Southern Gothic, because it is settled in the south of our country. And also, it deals in a subtle way about a topic which is slavery. Well, Faulkner used some resources to make this story more appealing. First, he used foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is giving hints of something terrible that happened in the story. For example, he talked about poison, that Miss Emily bought poison. So it keeps the reader's attention towards the story of what is going to happen in the future. Also, he uses imagery. Why does he use imagery? To make the reader more to have a better picture of the story. For example, he talks about a house. He says it was a big squarish frame house that had once been white, decorated with cupolas and spires and scroll balconies in the heavily lightsome style of the 70s, set on what had once been our most select street. That instantly creates an image in your head about the story where the story is set. Sorry. Also, he uses a flashback. He uses this resource while telling the story because he's telling the story the other way around. He starts when my lady, Miss Emily, died, and then start to develop the story behind that death. He also used this metaphor, which is the most important one, which he mentions that it's a fallen monument. Why is it a fallen monument? Because as she's dead, and as important as she was, everyone in the city wanted to go to her funeral.
Now you know the story. There are some things treated there which are clearly reflected in me. Tradition, and how tradition is trying to overcome change. I am a clear example of the struggle to maintain tradition in the face of wide and radical change. I live in a time vacuum and a world of my own making. I remain myself in a Jefferson that is changing and that is embracing a modern or commercial future, and I refuse to change with it. And death is covering my story from beginning to end. But death is not always literal. You see the old social order and how it's dying with me. In spite of the many attempts I can do, in spite of the many attempts that can be done by anyone to try to stop that. You also have how those things are represented to others. You have all the watching. I am always underrun and always being watched by everyone. Like I said, I was considered an idol, a monument, a model, an object. People look up to me, and either inside or outside my house, I was always being watched. And the dust, the vivid representation of all the faded lives in my story. It's a place of status where everything remains undisturbed, acting as a protective presence, but also suggesting a cloud of obscurity hidden my true self. And then you see the things in the story in which I am oddly reflected. My house, which is the most accurate representation of everything that I am, an extension of the person I became, and the strand of my hair, the image of lost love, and the most perverse things that someone is capable to do towards chasing happiness.
Well, I'm going to talk about the person who created us. He is William Faulkner, and he is dead too. He had been dead for a long time. But he is not here with us. But he is like a father for all of us. He was born in Mississippi, in New Albany, Mississippi, in 1897. He came from a prominent family. His family, most of them, or his ancestors, were involved in the American and Mexican War, the Civil War, and also during the period of Reconstruction. So you can notice he wrote about that. He grew up in Oxford, Mississippi, because he moved from New Albany to Oxford. And at the end, he always go back to Oxford. Oxford and its surroundings were the inspiration of the town of Yoknapatawpha and its own town of Jefferson, where Miss Emily was. He was really curious about the problems that people had during this period of Reconstruction, the problems with the Southern aristocracy, what happened with them when they lost their wealth. His novels explore all these problems, all the suffering of the people of the South after this Civil War. He wrote many novels, but Absalom, Absalom was his own bestseller, because people at that period were extremely scared about what he wrote, because he wrote about things they didn't want to recognize. He wrote about necrophilia, he wrote about raping, incest, and many things that were topics really controversial at that period. He also had a particular way to write. As you could notice here, and as people said, he never wrote in a chronological way. We start telling the story of Mrs. Emily's funeral, and then we go back to her youth, when she was younger. He never wrote that way, and for people it was really complicated to understand him. Even now, it is complicated to understand that way of writing. He also uses flashbacks and multiple storylines, and he has many narrators in his stories. The Sound of the Fury had 3 main person narrators, which is really weird when you are reading it. And As I Lay Dying had 13. Can you imagine? 13 narrators. He also uses a stream of consciousness to portray what their characters wanted to tell us. And he won a Nobel Prize in 1949. but he has struggles in his life. He struggled with alcohol, like his father, sorry. And finally he died in 1962 because of a heart attack. So he is not here, but he is here.
Now, I have to go to my new master's house. Miss Emily, we will see each other again.